Welcome to Movie Speeching. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take good care. In the Name of the King, A Dungeon Siege Tale is the name of the movie. Within the kingdom of Ebb, Mage Galleon visits Muriella to spend a few time together. Muriella cherishes kissing Galleon since she accepts there's cherish between them, but Galleon is really retaining the enchantment that runs in her mage bloodline. As they keep on kissing, nature exterior is demolished by the dull powers of Galleon's custom. Muriella's father Merrick is within the range and faculties this vitality, so he goes to explore and finds Galleon is utilizing enchantment to control an armed force of mammoths known as Kroogs. In the meantime, an vagrant known as Agriculturist works difficult on the arrive. He lives cheerfully with his child Zeph and his spouse Solana, who Agriculturist hasn't told I adore you to however. They're frequently gone to by Farmer's best companion Norik, who advises Rancher that the king's armed force is enlisting men and pays well. Agriculturist turns the offer down since he favors a boring life on the off chance that it implies remaining with family. At the regal castle, ruler Conreed gets news of the Kroogs murdering individuals all over the put, counting a regal protect. Conreed's nephew Decrepit battles the concept of such serene mammoths assaulting silly, but Conreed accepts dim divination is included. The another day, Solana and Zeph go to visit Solana's guardians and her brother Bastion at the town, whereas Rancher remains at domestic to work. He abruptly feels a peculiar nearness within the region, and a fast examination uncovers a bunch of Kroogs are attacking. Agriculturist uncovers to have mystery battling procedures that he employments to rapidly vanquish all the beasts before the runs to check on Norik, who is additionally beneath assault whereas his animal dwelling place burns. Together the two companions battle and overcome all the foes, but shockingly there's no sparing the animal dwelling place. A short time later Agriculturist inquires Norik for a horse because he fears more Kroogs may be attending to the town. Back within the regal castle, Muriella is taking sword lessons with Commander Teresh. He regards Muriella's aptitude with the sword, but he can't acknowledge her into his armed force since she's a lady. Their preparing is hindered by Neglected, who tells Teresh to plan his troopers since the Kroogs are ransacking the arrive. It's clear that Teresh disdains Neglected for being a good-for-nothing, but he has no choice but to comply. Within the town, Solana is hanging out with her father and child within the tower when she all of a sudden sees the Kroogs coming. She quickly asks her father to require Zeph to a secure put whereas she rings the chime to raise the alert. The villagers panic and run as the Kroogs start crushing everything in their way. At that minute, Agriculturist and Norik arrive at the town and connect the battle, murdering as numerous Kroogs as they can. Farmer is frantic to discover Solana and listens from her family that she's still at the Chime Tower, so Norik and Bastion offer assistance him discover her whereas Zeph remains with his grandparents. In the interim the Kroogs reach the tower and seize Solana. In his post, Galleon is utilizing his enchantment to control the Kroogs. He sends reinforcement within the shape of dim knights that serve as his avatar and permit him to see what's going on. When Rancher approaches the tower, he finds it on fire and accepts Solana's as of now dead. Galleon sends a dim knight after Rancher and to his stun, Agriculturist battles the dull knight without issues and indeed oversees to slaughter him. However, Galleon doesn't allow up and picks up control of a moment knight that he sends to Solana's house to murder her guardians. When Rancher arrives, he quickly begins another battle against more incoming Kroogs, whereas the knight finds Zeph stowing away within the closet. Zeph rapidly runs absent and the knight takes after him so that Galleon can have the joy of murdering him. Whereas Bastion gets domestic and is crushed to discover his dead guardians, Rancher finds Zeph and cries for his misfortune. After Galleon makes his army retreat with a bunch of prisoners, Agriculturist and Bastion bury Zeph and his grandparents. Norik focuses out they didn't discover Solana's body, so she might still be lively. At the illustrious castle, Neglected meets with Galleon to remind him they had a bargain to require over the throne together. Decrepit doesn't think Galleon's working quick sufficient, but Galleon's is well stressed approximately Agriculturist and his capacity to strike dull knights. A few hours later, King Conreed and his bunch arrive trying to find individuals who need to connect the illustrious armed force. Rancher turns them down, saying the ruler has bounty of officers and walls to secure him. Norik and Bastion concur with him and acknowledge to connect his look for Solana, but they're abruptly captured by Merrick, who considers Norik and Agriculturist C recognizable. Merrick tries to clarify to Rancher that the ruler needs him more than they know, but Rancher dismisses him. After some hours of riding, Agriculturist, Norik, and Bastion reach a broken bridge above a cliff. They send the steeds back and after that cross the hole by sliding down a rope with their belts. Rancher comes to the other conclusion securely, but Norik and Bastion drop into the water. Thankfully, they do not get harmed within the handle. In the interim, the Lord and his men return to the castle and find as it were one protect resting at the entrance. To create things more awful, Decrepit is utilizing the position of authority to urge Spirited with a lady. Conread chastens him for his behavior. At that point he makes Teresh take Neglected absent. This causes Decrepit to slap Teresh for touching him, but Teresh can't react since Neglected is still Eminence. A while later, Neglected goes to Galleon to request an increasing speed of the arrange. Galleon needs more control for that, so he visits Muriella, who tells him her father considers Galleon an foe of the Lord. Galleon expels that comment as Merrick Fair being as well judgmental, but since Muriella won't drop the subject, Galleon gets incensed and hollers at her. This alarms Muriella and causes her to kick him out. The following morning, Decrepit apologizes to Conread and guarantees to do way better, so Conread permits him to share his breakfast. A short time later, Conread examines with Teresh the bizarre behavior the Krugs are appearing and how they ought to assault. Muriella takes the chance to talk to Conread to inquire what's going on since no one tells her anything. Conread is approximately to clarify the Krug issue, but he suddenly starts feeling bleary-eyed and he passes out. Merrick faculties his ruler is in peril and starts making his way back to the castle, whereas Neglected goes to see Galleon since he feels wiped out as well. Galleon uncovers that he harmed the king's breakfast, which he has the cure, which he gives to Decrepit as it were after making him ask and reminding him who is truly in charge. Minutes afterward, Merrick arrives and employments his enchantment to begin working on the harm within the king's framework. Teresh advises him Neglected has fled the castle and took 2 full armies with him, which may demonstrate he did the harming, but 2 Galleons offer assistance. When Teresh ponders how Galleon got so much control, Merrick gets suspicious and visits Muriella, who affirms she had been getting near to Galleon. Merrick clarifies to her that she had been utilized and her terrible choices are bringing chaos to the kingdom, which causes Muriella to have a breakdown. Exterior the illustrious bequest, Neglected tells the soldiers to take after him, and when one man ponders why Teresh isn't with them, Decrepit slaughters him. At that point he debilitates to murder anybody who doesn't take after him since it would actually be treason. In the meantime, Agriculturist, Bastion, and Norik get misplaced within the woodland. They feel a peculiar nearness encompassing them and all of a sudden, a bunch of plants snatch them by their feet and hang them upside down. This can be a trap from fairies, who do not need warriors in their woodland. Rancher employments his weapons to free himself and swears they cruel no hurt, so the fairies let them go on the condition they get out of the woods quickly. The folks concede they're misplaced and the sprites acknowledge to direct them to the edge of the woodland, whereas clarifying they do not get included in humans' issues. The trio makes it out of the woods at night and finds the Krugs that are transporting the carts with the detainees to their sanctuary. One of the mammoths tries to assault them, but they rapidly slaughter it and Norik takes its head protector, getting in thought. He and Bastion dress up as Krugs and imagine to bring Rancher as a detainee, giving him the chance to hunt for Solana. Tragically, Bastion and Norik are recognized as people and captured besides. Rancher finds Solana in one of the cages, but a dark night thumps him out from behind. Sometime recently he can protect her. Back at the castle, Conread wakes up and Merrick informs him of Phallos' doings. Conread orders Teresh to get the armed force prepared to attack and he'll come along instead of resting. On a street not distant absent, Solana wakes up and finds Norik and Bastion are with her. She breaks down when they tell her approximately her guardians and Zeph, but Norik promises Farmer will come for her. Meanwhile, Rancher wakes up to discover himself tied to a tree. There's a dull night another to him that Galleon employments to communicate, conceding he's inquisitive around Agriculturist since he can't peruse him like he does with other ordinary people. Galleon needs to know what Rancher is, but since Agriculturist doesn't have answers, Galleon pulls the rope to undertake to murder him. In any case, Rancher moves rapidly and kicks the knight to slaughter him with his claimed weapon. At that point he cuts the rope to spare himself. Adjacent, Merrick faculties Galleon's enchantment and rushes to find Farmer barely lively, so he makes a difference him by sharing a few enchantment medication. At the castle, Muriela bargains with her sentiments of blame over having given her enchantment to Galleon. She considers ending things, but her best companion comes to stop her, indicating out that would as it were make things more regrettable. Muriela chooses she wants to make up for her botches and make her father pleased, so she puts on armor and clears out the castle to join the battle. Minutes afterward, Decrepit makes his armed force connect a Krug camp, saying they're portion of his armed force as well. This isn't enjoyed by the warriors. In the interim, Merrick brings Rancher to the king's camp to present him to Conread, because he has enormous news. Agriculturist is the king's misplaced child. He's beyond any doubt of this since Norick utilized to tend the queen's steeds, and after the slaughter at Oxley Pass, Norick found a small boy meandering around. There was as it were one child at Oxley Pass back at that point, the sovereign. Rancher denies to believe this and takes off the tent. Whereas he looks for a horse to go back to hunt for his spouse, Merrick approaches him to inquire him to connect the armed force again. Farmer refuses, so Merrick focuses out there's no point in sparing Solana in the event that the ruler doesn't win the war, since at that point Merrick won't have a put to live. A minute afterward, Teresh approaches Fallow to undertake to solve this without a battle. He calls him a backstabber and reports any soldier under his command will be considered one as well. Fallow chuckles since he believes himself to be the modern lord and nothing can be done against him, but at that minute Conread appears up to demonstrate he's still lively. The warriors that taken after Decrepit promptly return to their king's side and get ready for fight. Teresh is stunned to see Farmer joining them as well. Abruptly, Fallow's Krug armed force arrives. The king's archers bargain with the primary wave. At that point the sword wielders come through to begin a furious fight. Galleon employments his magic to send a few Krugs underground, permitting them to seize the warriors by surprise from underneath. The people are great warriors and oversee to keep up their protections, but things get more complicated when Galleon sends a few dull knights and catapults that shoot rocks and indeed Krugs themselves on fire. Whereas the Toxophilites discover a secure spot to bring down the Krugs in charge of the catapults, the Lord moreover joins the battle, so the dim knights attempt going after him. The troopers can't halt them no matter how much they attack, but Rancher knows he's uncommon and opens the way to reach the knights and rapidly slaughter them. This diversion is used by Neglected to shoot Conread within the chest. The king doesn't deliver up and proceeds battling, but Merrick orders the watches to take him absent. Neglected quickly rides absent and Rancher tries to capture him, but another dull knight gets in his way and Rancher must remain to fight him. By holding onto the knight's horse, Agriculturist oversees to reach the knight and murder him as well. The king's armed force wins the fight, but Galleon considers their fair buying time. Adjacent, Muriela uses her extraordinary senses to get at what heading she must take and finds there's a dark knight taking after her, so she rides absent into the woods. Minutes afterward, Neglected and the few men he has cleared out appear up within the timberland with the deliberate of returning to the castle since it's purged and up for taking. They abruptly halt when they discover a dim knight hanging from a tree, and fare a small assist in Muriela is holding up. Decrepit considers he's found the idealized casualty to capture, but at that minute the plants begin moving. It turns out typically a trap and the sprites presently capture all the warriors. Frightened, Neglected gets his sword and tries to slaughter Muriela, who rapidly guards herself. A nymph on a vine hops in to require Muriela absent and Decrepit tries to elude, but he finds himself blocked by the bodies of his possess officers. The vines capture Neglected and Muriela declares he's coming with her. At Galleon's post, the Krugs arrive with all the detainees, and as before long as they open the cages, Bastion and Norick begin a battle. Solana gets to run absent with another prisoner, but shockingly Norick dies in fight. Bastion joins the young ladies within the corridor attempting to discover a way out, but the Krugs discover them and recapture them. Within the king's camp, Conread isn't well, so Merrick calls Rancher to form him confront his father's final wishes. Conread employments the sight around bravery and difficult work that Agriculturist listened some time recently, and this demonstrates he's his child since Conread, as it were, said that to the ruler. The ruler considers that Farmer's abilities in fight demonstrate he should be a commendable pioneer, but moreover uncovers he knows approximately other subjects like plants and creatures because he cares approximately his kingdom and what's going on in it. Agriculturist is awed and holds Comriad's hand as he acknowledges his dream of peace. Right sometime recently the ruler passes on. Exterior, Teresh welcomes Muriela and sees her bring neglected with her. Teresh promptly liberates Decrepit from the vines and challenges him to a duel for the king's honor. Decrepit acknowledges and starts the battle by assaulting Teresh from behind, but Teresh rapidly recuperates and appears off his aptitudes, effortlessly overwhelming Decrepit. At that minute, an officer brings the declaration of Comriad's passing, and Neglected snickers, since which means he's the modern ruler and they can't hurt him. He tries to arrange the officers around, but he's hindered by Merrick, who introduces everybody to Rancher, explaining he's Comriad's child and thus the unused lord. Merrick blames Neglected of murdering King Reed, and whereas an officer at long last captures Decrepit, everybody stoops to Rancher as their modern ruler. At his fortification, Galleon learns that Solana is among the detainees and needs to utilize her to form Rancher come to him. He touches her creepily and utilizing his enchantment, Galleon finds that Solana is pregnant. Back at the illustrious camp, the armed force says farewell to Conreed with a legitimate burial service sometime recently making fight plans. Muriela tries to connect the armed force once more and this time Agriculturist acknowledges her as a trooper. She too knows of other individuals that need to offer assistance and takes Agriculturist to the woods, shocking him with the nearness of the fairies. They as a rule do not need to battle, but they've changed their intellect since the Krugs are presently assaulting their timberland as well. Minutes afterward, Rancher takes his armed force to Galleon's fortification, where the mage summons a storm to form the battle harder for the people. As a furious fight begins between Krugs and the illustrious watches, also the sprites, Merrick takes Rancher around the mountain to show him a mystery entrance to Galleon's sanctuary. At that point Merrick teleports inside to stand up to Galleon straightforwardly, since they utilized to be companions before Galleon fell into the haziness. The final existing mages within the kingdom begin a battle by controlling swords with their enchantment, and Galleon employments all the control he's stolen from Muriela to cut Merrick, leaving him to pass on alone. Exterior, a sprite makes a difference. Agriculturist utilize a rope to bounce over a cliff and pick up get to the mystery entrance. Muriela faculties her father's death and teleports into the post to say farewell to him. Sometime recently passing on, Merrick gives his girl the final of his enchantment. Within the caves, Bastion oversees to induce the chains off the dividers and assembles a few of the detainees to battle the Krugs, whereas the others take the chance to elude. Rancher sneaks interior the post until he finds Solana, but Galleon is holding up for him. Solana tries to run absent, but Galleon hits her with magic to form her remain. At that point Galleon grabs a sword to battle Agriculturist, and as before long as he realizes Farmer has way better abilities, he starts utilizing enchantment to hurl tables at him and float away from Farmer's hits. While Teresh and the sprites have trouble against the dull knights that connect the Krugs and fight, Farmer manages to incapacitate Galleon and wound his head. Galleon reacts by capturing Rancher in an enchantment storm of books and recovers his sword to murder him, as it were to be hindered by Muriela, who employments her enchantment to spare Farmer and solidify Galleon. Solana sees the opportunity and with Farmer's sword, she cuts Galleon to induce exact retribution for her child. Presently free, Agriculturist comes forward and wraps up Galleon once and for all. The passing of the mage causes all the dim knights to vanish and Krugs to calm down and take off since they aren't beneath his control any longer. The detainees and the armed force take a breath as they realize they won. Agriculturist and Solana celebrate their triumph with a kiss, and Agriculturist at last tells her he adores her. Thank you for watching. See you on the next video.